Thank you so much for being here. My name's Millie Kakani, she, her, hers. I'm the Director of Youth Justice at Children's Defense Fund, California. My incredible colleague, Lena Mallet, is also here. Our work is really dedicated to, one day, eliminating systems of surveillance, control, exploitation, incarceration of our young people, and connected to that, their communities. We want to see our young people be the best versions of themselves without having to navigate systems that exist to really hold them back and not value their humanity and dignity. So our work, again, at the county level, the state level, local level, is trying to hold these systems accountable while simultaneously building out alternatives of care, love, and healing. And in that vein, next Tuesday at our Board of Supervisors hearing, we are mobilizing folks to challenge the county's supplemental budget. Yes. One that is dedicated to eradicating any form of accountability, any form of care, and it just is, I don't even know how to describe how upsetting it is, the way our county is moving and the fact that we have just lost our way, and instead of care first, we've kind of moved towards this jails first prioritization. So if you all happen to be free next Tuesday, join us at the Board of Supervisors, Kenneth Hahn Hall of Administration in downtown. There is a rally and presser starting at 10-ish, public comment at 11:30, but would love to see your faces. There's also a resource fair, but in this moment, I think our one goal is really to strengthen community and build relationships with folks, because this is it, right? These are the folks in this room who will protect one another and care for our young people in their communities. I don't think that we can count on systems. Actually, I know we can't count on systems. So looking forward to seeing you. Thank you for being here. And I'm going to pass it back to our MCs who are going to introduce, I think, our next panel.
All right, so for our next panel, it will actually be moderated by Karika.
Again, my name is Kavika Smith, and I will serve as your moderator this afternoon. As we begin this discussion, we will begin with introductions and then jump right into the questions which all panelists have at this point seen. This afternoon, first, I want to bring up Lawana Hills, Miss Lawana Hills, who for the past 30 years have advocated and empowered communities through her 21 years with DCFS at Child Protective Services, spanning across 3 different counties, Solano, Yolo, and Sacramento counties. 8 years of overseeing independent adoption programs and community care with California Department of Social Services, where she then served as a social services director for the Southern California Division of Salvation Army. Currently, she is a senior deputy of child welfare and human services for LA Board of Supervisor Holly J. Mitchell. Nice. One more round of applause. In addition to that, I would like to bring up Ashley Anderson. Who is a communications professional. Most importantly, she brings with her lived experience as a former foster youth right here in LA County, where she grew up in South Central in Covina. I did as well. And her early work centered housing work and advocacy with the city of Covina, where she then expanded to statewide policy work with California Forward, and now serves as a communications lead and field rep for Assemblywoman Sade Elwari. She utilizes storytelling justices practices in her work, which I'm hoping that we hear more about later on. And also, go Bruins, I know USC is across the street. She is an AFAM graduate of the UCLA. One more round of applause. Last but definitely not least, we would like to bring up Miss Martine Singer, a native New Yorker. She's a native New Yorker a graduate of Sarah Lawrence and Yale as well, where she received Yale's highest honor in 2024, being named the Donaldson Fellow, serving on various boards, previously led Para los Niños as the president and CEO, the founder of the foreign language edition of the New York Times and LA Times online edition. She has unique experience being a seasoned exec for global media companies. What brings her here today is her leadership at Children's Institute as their president and CEO, where she leads one of LA's oldest and largest agencies, overseeing a budget of $110 million and 1,000-member staff, offering educational services and emotional well-being. One more round of applause for our panelists. Whew, okay. So thank each and every one of you for your work and commitment to doing this work of undoing, healing, and building anew. And for the sake of time, let's jump in. I'm enjoying y'all over there, actually. There we go. So, for starters, I'm going to give a definition of AB 12. If anyone knows about it, it was an assembly bill that extended foster care to the age of 21. So originally it was around 18 when someone would typically age out. And so what this bill did was extend it so that folks can choose and have some sort of agency to say, hey, I'm only but a young adult. I still need some more help. Let me get some more services before I fully adult at the age of 21. Make sense? All right, so let's go ahead and hop into our first question. So dealing with AB 12 and its extension of foster care to the age of 21, and the Fostering Connections Act, which puts states to support youth beyond 18. Looking back at it, how has the policies helped, maybe even failed? Thank you. My apologies, y'all. How these policies helped and maybe even failed youth trying to find housing, finish school, and build out their adult lives. Anyone can choose.
I'm like Prilla. I don't really like mics, but I got y'all. So, my lived experience, I am a former foster youth, so I can talk personally how it helped me, but also legislatively how it's impacted what we've seen. Personally, for AB 12, it being extended, I was able to age out. Well, I actually, at 16, was under kin gap, and at 18, we had to wait to make sure that I wasn't gonna age out of the system. And so it being expanded to 21 allowed me to, while I was in college, get food stamps, Medi-Cal. Also, there was another bill by Senator Ashby, SB 307. I took notes just to make sure I'm giving y'all correct information. It covers the cost of college for foster youth at UCs, Cal States, and community colleges. And I went to UCLA, which is expensive, and I was able to get most of my college education covered. I think I have about 15 grand in debt, which coming out of UCLA is not the thing. Thank you. And so I think that it definitely did help me in those areas, but also it did fail me. I didn't have a transition plan because when my ILP worker came, she saw that everything was fine. She thought that I was one of her success stories and she didn't need to take care of me. What she didn't know was that my foster dad was not doing what he was supposed to do. And I decided to leave and not, stay in contact with my foster family. So I went through my entire college education by myself with no plan. And so now even though I work at the California State Assembly, I'm still having issues with housing. But I'm here and I'm doing the work that's supposed to be done. But I was one of the people that everyone thought was gonna be okay. And so did I. And so I think we also have to realize that we need transitional plans. We need to make sure that we support our youth in that way. And so Assemblymember Sade Ahawari has introduced, and it's actually on the governor's desk right now. He has until October 12th to sign it. But she has Bill AB 896, which is creating individual plans for foster kids when moving between homes. Making sure that your transition plan stays with you no matter where you go, because many times service providers, and I think Perla was talking about this earlier, how just because you move from one home to another home, you may not be supported. You may not have all the resources that you need. And so that's one of the bills that has on top of AB 12, it being extended for our foster youth to be able to have access to resources up until 21. It was really helpful to build on that bill. And so I think that also, sorry y'all, I'm a little nervy. Yeah, I think that that's kind of where I would like to stop, but I think that that specific bill definitely was helpful in those ways.
I would agree. AB 12 was just that, a safety net. I think it gave the framework to those that were out doing the work, which at the time was myself. As a social worker, there was not that framework to really say what help and resources were available for youth that were exiting the system. So I really believe that it provided a good safety net, but if I had to go back and look, I think where it's fallen short is just that. There's still a lot of youth exiting the system, not knowing what their resources are available with them, and they're exiting into homelessness. And that's created a whole nother set of issues. And so, although, in practicum, as they're looking at it and writing it, it sounds and looks good, but if we're not implementing certain things and we're not providing the resources available to those exiting the system, that these things are available to you, then it doesn't really go far, right? So I think we could do a better job, and I'm saying we, because as a policy writer, that's something that I think needs to be executed a lot, is the outreach that's made available to the youth to know exactly what's happening when they have that closure, and making sure the connections are there for them after the fact.
I think the perspective that I try to provide is from the provider, point of view, like what happens when the policies kind of hit the operational ground level. And oftentimes the programs that are designed out of the funding or the policies that are created in the legislature are so restrictive. So for example, for many years, and Julio Cruz, who's here, worked in the program at CII for a number of years. We had a program funded by DCFS called ITSP, Individualized Transition Skills Program, where we were allowed to give exactly 5 hours of counseling a month. No more, no less. I mean, who thought that up? One kid is in crisis, another kid is doing fine for the moment, and no, 5 hours, that's it. There was no provision for housing. I mean, if housing is a problem there aren't any forums like this on any topic that don't end up about housing, right? If it's a problem throughout the state, why isn't it a more acute problem for foster youth? We know it is. And yet the programs are not designed with that in mind. It really depends way too much on the worker that you have, the knowledge that they have, the mood they're in, the whatever. And again, I am not trying to undermine or diss the workers, and I'm talking about the county social workers in any way. They are overworked and overwhelmed just like everybody else. But the system is so broken and so fragmented that it is a challenge for anybody to be able to unearth the resources that young people need, to give them the self-advocacy skills they need. And housing is a fundamental, as the speaker was saying earlier, Dr. Charity, you shouldn't have to be extraordinary, right? Yeah. These kids are extraordinary, and housing is ordinary. Yeah. That's it. It should just be there for them, just as it should be for anyone else who needs it affordably and safely and everything else. So from the provider perspective, I would just say it sort of magnifies the fragmentation of services and the limitations. The other thing is we started We stopped doing the DCFS program. We raised money privately to start our own transition age youth program called Launch, which is now in Long Beach. We're hoping to expand it beyond Long Beach. But we made the eligibility ages 14 to 27. Because 21, there's no magic in the number 21. I'm sure many of us were not ready to face the world at 21 or even in their 60s. I don't know who I'm talking about, but I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm figuring out adulting. I'm 23. Let's go back real quick and what was a moment or an experience that changed your perspective and your outlook on foster youth or transition age youth, and what made it pertinent or relevant to your everyday work?
For me, when I first started and got professionally trained to do this work, it was in adoptions. And so that's a very different type of child protective services unit. So everybody in the unit is super happy, you're getting to match people, they're excited, people want these children in their lives, but you forget about the family that that child is leaving behind. And so come full circle, now I'm management, I'm in Sacramento, and one of the youth that was my very first adoption was homeless. And she came into our unit for services, and I'm looking at her and I know her name and I couldn't put it together, and she knew me, she knew my face. I was blown away. As I had, like you said, county workers, we had a lot of cases, but she was my first. So I just kept saying, what happened? You were adopted, what's going on? And she said, I wanted my family back. And so when I got out of when I turned 18, I went and found my family, and now we're homeless and we need some support. And she says, I said, well, what do you really need from us? And the thing for her was, I just need somebody to call and check on me. Like, I need somebody to be there and be in my corner and be my champion for me to say, hey, I can do this, I can make it. And at that time, I was the manager of the permanency unit, which most kids go to when they're aging out and they haven't been adopted. And so we changed the way we did business. And it took the team to really look and take a deep dive into connecting with the youth that were on their caseload, listening to them, being able to identify resources available to them when they exit the service. But the system, but that stuck with me a lot. It really made me think about not moving it along. They're not checklists. We're not trying to, close out a case as fast as we can and really invest. And I think that's kind of what led me to now wanting to do policy, because I'm empowered to change some of that through the policies that we write, as long as we stay youth connected and listen to what they want with what we're writing for policy. So.
For me, I am a former foster youth, so like my idea of what a foster youth was, I was really intimidated to claim it. I didn't want people to know that I was a foster youth because I didn't want to be treated different. I didn't want the trauma bonding. I didn't want people to look at me different. And then I found out that Assemblymember Isaac Bryan is a former foster youth. And he came, he graduated from UCLA, and he came and he gave a speech at our Black Convocation, which is like a convening for Black educators and the students on campus. And when I learned about the fact that you could be powerful and still have a story, was really, like, I didn't even know an elected official could have those experiences. My foster mom is the first Black school board in Charter Oak, and her brother is the mayor of Long Beach currently. So I knew that people from good backgrounds can do good things, but I didn't know people from backgrounds that looked like mine could also do good things. And so I interned. I reached out to that office so many times, like 3-4 times, and I was like, I just want to intern, like, please. And being able to have someone take a chance on me for the first time was really life-changing, and it changed my own experience of how I looked at myself. Assemblymember Sade Ahawari is a foster mom. That was one of the big reasons I wanted to work for her, because I knew that she would understand. And she does. She brought me on 6 months before I graduated college and allowed me to finish my degree and have a guaranteed job by the time that I graduated. And thank you. That's when I realized that there is people out in this world, especially politicians, that can do good work, and that's who I want to support. That's what I want to do. And I'm from South Central, so the fact that she represents South Central, I get to come home and make a real impact in my community, and I lead in coalition building with our community partners. I go to events, come to things like this, and make sure that we extend the services to our community. And so I think that that's really how the change, it was a personal change, not like a figurative change. And now I get to sit and talk about my story, and also I'm thinking about the ways I can connect the youth that were on the panel. I'm like, okay, we got this, we got that, and we're gonna get into it. But that's how I wanna make sure that I do what I saw is possible.
We're going to talk about something a little bit similar, but not. My start in the field was as a volunteer at a place called Holly Grove that was a residential treatment center for kids 6 to 13. And we started as a volunteer, long story. They decided to close the program in 2005. A lot of the group homes, this was a larger institution, but they were, especially for the younger kids, were closing down. And we discovered something called family finding. And whereas the county was really focused on placement, they had to be. I mean, the kids were going to close our doors. They had to have a place to go live and sleep. We really wanted to find connection and belonging for these kids before we said goodbye to them. And it was amazing how many kids were disconnected from their families. It was not necessarily a family that could take them back. Maybe the mother was not available, but there was a paternal family that the county had never even looked into. We found a kid who the county said was Mexican, and his mother was Mexican, but his father was Native American, and his grandfather was the head of the tribe here in LA County. This kid discovered not only an entire family that he never knew existed, a heritage, an ethnicity, a belonging, a place in the tribe. I mean, the fact that his grandfather was the head of it was, the celebrity side of it. But, it was how powerful, and that always stuck with me, that everybody belongs, and that we have an obligation not just to, as much as I said a moment ago, housing is important, of course it is, but to help kids find those connections, whether it's to some health condition they may have that they would never have known, to as I said, explore the paternal family, which is often ignored, and find out that there are people. In a couple places it resulted in placement, but mostly not. It was just more giving kids connections and roots and information that would stay with them for their lives. So that was kind of a twist on the question that I wanted to share.
Thank y'all for that. And so, in your positions in the organizations that we're all attached to, how are these organizations making sure Youth Voice leads the work, especially around urgent needs like housing, safety, healing, and belonging specifically?
I can jump in. So as I said, we decided to redesign this formerly DCFS-funded program into our own program. And we have a youth council. They call themselves the Legacy Group, which I love that name. And it was, unlike the programs that are handed down contract cycle after contract cycle, unchanged, unexamined, this was totally designed by young people with lived experience and who continue to sort of oversee what's happening. So that was a critical part of it, and I think part of what makes it a success. They did not want therapy. They have had enough therapy. I'm sure I'm speaking to many in the room who've been like, you want to tell your story again? And go through the whole assessment. They did not want that. Not that they don't need therapeutic activities, but those are as Bessel van der Kolk, who wrote The Body Keeps the Score, he came to our agency a couple years ago and was like, what are you doing here? Like, just have them join a basketball team, have them join a drama group. Like, forget all this therapy. He's a psychiatrist. But we really heard loud and clear what they wanted was mentorship, they wanted connection with each other, and they wanted help with housing and employment and education.
I work for an amazing woman, Supervisor Holly Mitchell. She has really made us think about how we move in the work that we do. And so one of the things that I'm very proud of, having worked all these years with other systems, to be part of this team really helps motivate me to get up and do the work every day. But we're very intentional about the youth voice being the driver, not the afterthought. And so I'm proud to say that we partner with other businesses, the local CBOs that are out there actively working. We're connecting with the youth, surveying them about what their needs are, and then being responsive to that. So I know that that's one of the things that's her passion. Reason I even decided to come on board when made the offer is because it's my passion. And I think it just aligns with the work and trying to make it, showcase the importance of it. You all are our future, and so we understand that, and being able to move in the space to help make things happen accordingly is I think where we need to be. So I know that's one of the things that's our office priority. So happy to say we are in that space.
Oh. I would like to talk a little bit about some of the work that the Assembly member is doing currently. I wrote down a list of things because we really work with the youth really heavily. So actually right now it's Voter Education Weeks for our young people. We're partnering with the Secretary of State, and we actually are, we understand that our South Central kids need incentives. So we're making sure that we meet with community partners who have opportunities that can give them partnership, mentorship opportunities. So we did that through doing a South Central Youth Vote contest. We're trying to get young people to encourage their own peers to get to vote. As we know, like, we have an election coming up soon, a special election and all of the things. We want to make sure that our young people actually understand their voice. And so we're offering them the winners $1,000 and then exclusive partnerships with community members. So I've been reaching out and doing a lot of coalition buildings, finding out what's in South Central to bring those resources to the young people. We've also been visiting all of the high schools and districts. So I actually left from one right before I came here to talk to them about civic engagement and actually learn who their assembly member is and hear from them. The assembly member asks questions like, what do you want? What do you like and what do you don't like about a politician? And those kids were honest and brutal. And we're gonna take those conversations back and see how we can formulate that in our own office. So that's one of the ways. We also have fellowship and internship programs that we offer to just give students volunteer opportunities as well, to give them opportunities to see what a state office does, because our kids don't know what state offices do, and there's so many resources and so many opportunities outside of just legislation that we do. Like, there's a whole district office, and our district office is actually around the corner. Like, we're at the expo center in this next building over. And so making sure that they know we're present. I talked about AB 896, which is focusing on our foster youth. And then she also, Shaquan, you were telling a story about one of your sisters who had got their hair permed. I actually was staffing a bill. It was called AB 1120. It unfortunately didn't move forward. But it was focusing on giving foster parents education on how to care for culturally appropriate care standards. And so when we talk about the work, the intentionality behind the bills that we are moving forward, it's really focusing on having the youth at the table. I'm a youth, so I'm at the table, and I make sure that they allow me to have a voice at the table. Dr. Charity, you talked about questioning everything. That's one of our values. We question everything. We're looking to create a community led, community-focused government, which has never been done before. So we're trying to make sure that we bring our community to the table, and so those are just a few of the ways. There's a lot of other ways. I don't want to take too much time, but I just wanted to say that those are the ways that we're doing that. She also sits on 4 caucuses. We make sure that we provide those scholarship opportunities and a strategic outreach for our schools. I'm currently leading a Red Ribbon Week initiative for our elementary schools, and I learned that the state provides free resources for them and they never got it. And so making sure that our schools get the things that they need. So those are just some of the ways that we've been doing some of the work and trying to extend that and make sure that we partner with the people who are actually having issues and actually addressing them in meaningful ways. And then lastly, I lead communications for the member, and so part of my strategy is changing narratives, not focusing on, Dr. Charity was talking about, not talking about things as in like disadvantages or not, like deficits, thank you, deficits, and actually turning them into assets and talking about the assets of things. And so I'm strategic in the way that I talk about our bills. It's making sure that our language and the things that we say to our community, they understand it, and if you don't understand it, we explain. And so making sure everyone wants to say like, oh, the state, like legislation is boring, I don't understand it. Like, okay, well, why don't you understand it? What would make it more interesting for you to understand it? Because it's important. All of these bills that are going through are impacting everyone's lives consistently. So we need to know what they mean. So that's some of the like storytelling narrative that I lead in the communications work.
And so we're like now at the midway point, so please prepare your questions. The next question that I have is in regards to some of the programs and grants that's out there, like the Chafee grant, the THP Plus Housing, Family Urgent Response, and the LA's Youth Ombudsman, which are meant to help and assist, right? I just lost it. Where are they working? So in what areas are they working? And then also, in what innovative and new ways could they bolster their services, specifically for Black and Latino youth that are facing fostering the foster care system, and also transitioning out of the foster care system?
So I took some notes on this one because it's quite a bit. Those programs are meant to be and represent an investment in young people, really, exiting or not trying to navigate the child welfare system. And so, to the point, there are still gaps, especially with, the Black and Latino youth. There's inequitable access, awareness and follow through is not there as it should be. So too often we see that there needs to be programs that there's awareness that happens so that they can make sure these things are accessed, these programs that are available to them. As you just mentioned, they don't know sometimes that there's these things that are out there for them. With the Chafee grant, we see that it's underutilized because there's a mountain of paperwork, and a lot of times they can't navigate through the paperwork to get the things they need. For the housing, there's, it's a lifeline, but the capacity is very limited. And so if you're not at the top of the list when you need the services, then sometimes it's meaningless. And then there's the youth ombudsman that a lot of times is supposed to be the lifeline, but youth aren't aware that there's this advocacy out there for you to speak up for yourself, not be quiet about things, be the disruptor, and they can help you kind of figure out those things. So I think it's important that although these things were designed to be an investment, and they do support in some ways, with regards to the financial aid for higher education. Within that, there tends to be a little bit more housing stability. And then there is the ability to have some rapid response that happens if you know how to move in that space and advocate. So I think filling in those gaps where it's fallen through is huge to the success of some of those programs. but they were designed to be an investment. And so for that, as a social worker in the field, I was appreciative when those things surfaced, but then really trying to have that outreach to get the word out was the hardest part, because again, it was one more thing on top of everything else that had to happen to manage my caseload every week. So.
I don't have too much to add. The one thing I would say is that I think there is hope with AI and other tools that exist now in the civic tech space to cut through some of that paperwork and the eligibility and all of the applications that are not, it's not a common app kind of thing. And I have seen very promising technology. There's something that was created here in LA called the Benefit Navigator, which is a tool for caseworkers. I hope that they're going to do a version that people can access directly. But it is like magic. I mean, it tells you every benefit and tax credit that you're eligible for. Everybody is coming to them and say, do one for education, do one for early childhood, do it. And there's millions of applications, and we're working with them as well. We've done some piloting and so forth. But I feel like everything we're talking about that has to do with navigation and people not knowing all the rules and not being able to keep it all in their head, of course they can't. They need like a concierge to go to say, please help me with this, and I think technology is one of the places where it's less scary. I think it can really help.
So, on to that, looking at Family First, which focuses on prevention, which Shaquan had mentioned earlier, and then even the other portion of it, which is Medicaid to 26, which extends health coverage for youth to the age of 26. Yet there's still gaps, right? What are some of the bold changes in policy that we're seeing currently put out, as well as some of the ones that are kind of laying dormant or going under the rug and we're not seeing? What are some of the ones that are, like I said, being put on the floor, and some of the ones that we need to revisit?
Well, I would cite CalAIM and enhanced care management. So I don't know if everybody's familiar, but there's a big reform through a Medicaid waiver that California was able to obtain that might go away. Who knows? Nobody knows about the future, but for the moment, it's great. And it really is the first attempt to address social determinants like housing, like putting a security deposit down, like putting in ramps for people with disabilities, like medical meals. I mean, you can pay for all kinds of things through enhanced care management, which is care coordination. It is a really valuable program. It is a benefit to anybody on Medi-Cal managed care in California who meets the criteria. Foster youth were chosen as a target population for this as of July 1, 2023. Well, foster youth are not enrolled in Medi-Cal managed care. They are in this fee-for-service thing, which is a complete, kind of arcane thing where once upon a time that was better or something, but it's been decades. They are not eligible to access this service, to which they should all be automatically enrolled and entitled. And it could help with so much. We offer this. We cannot enroll our own youth in it. There was just a report that came out. The Board of Supervisors asked for a report, and the Office of Child Protection and others worked, cross-departmentally to work on this, and it was very worthwhile, demand on the part of the board. But it's 2.5 years later. 2.5 years. So there's this incredible opportunity, and foster youth are pretty much locked out of it. So again, it's like where the rubber hits the road. The policy, the creation of the CalAIM, all the work that went into designing it, fantastic. Picking foster youth as a target population, great. And now what? Right? And there are recommendations in the report and so forth, but my God, it'll be 3 years before that gap is addressed. So it's just one illustration, but one that it's kind of my rant for the day, that just the bureaucracy and the nonsense that keeps these things from actually becoming useful to individuals?
Well, I can piggyback on that a little bit. So my policy shop is child welfare and human services. So in preparation for today, I met with the other senior deputies to ask them questions. I said, where are we making some bold changes? Like everyone's writing and authoring their motions and trying to put together information and do research. And so from my notes, what was shared with me is one, that's a huge priority that they're working on. And of course, as you just said, sometimes working on it takes years for it to happen. But to know that it's being worked on is helpful for me. But guaranteed housing as a right for transition age youth. No young person should exit care into homelessness. They need stable and long-term housing options tied to supportive services and not just programs with wait lists. So that's something that they're working on in that policy shop. Invest in education and workforce pipelines. Beyond financial aid, we need paid apprenticeships, tuition, debt forgiveness, and partnerships with employers who commit to hiring foster youth in creative pathways to living wages careers that they can have and actually live on. And so that's one of the things that has been at the top of our priority list, and they're actually gathering the information and resources available. Centering mental health and healing, extending Medicaid is not enough for young people, cannot access trauma-informed care or culturally responsive providers who understand their lived experiences. So gathering those resources and writing motions that are directing them to come together and provide this resource is something that's at the top of the list. And then shifting from compliance to relationships. Too often systems measure youth by checklists. Did they attend class? Did they keep a job? Do they stay in placement? Rather than whether or not consistent, caring adults in their lives are an option to them and available. So policy should really incentivize these things and make sure that the youth that are speaking loudly about what they need are actually receiving it. So that's kind of where we are with some of the board changes.
I'll just speak briefly, briefly about some of the things legislatively. As we know, the state is in deficit and there was budget cuts. The member did vote against the budget cuts to Medi-Cal as it related to, it took a tier. They wanted to put immigrants as a tier in Medi-Cal and like try and get them off of it. And because, you know, that's one of the members' pillars and priorities, and she wanted to be transparent about why she was going against the general vote. And so she voted against the cuts to the Medi-Cal. I can get back to you all with like how that ended up turning out. I'm not exactly sure, but I do know that one of the ways the member is working on specifically like budget and things like that is looking for more revenue. Adding revenue, we can't keep operating in a deficit if California is the 4th largest economy in the world. So that's what she speaks a lot about, and so just being able to have that like transparency about how do we bring in revenue into our communities, and especially focusing on South Central because it gets little to no love. So that's one of the things also related to healthcare and like service workers. We have a bill called AB 37, which is a study bill that brings medical service providers in the housing sector together to have a convening. We're inviting around 75 partners, still looking for people to add to that list and making sure that youth are at that table. Like the youth advisory boards, I know you work with Sanctuary Hope, Alicia, wanting to bring those voices in on like what are the actual experiences of our homeless populations and how can we actually come together as service providers or bringing service providers together to have that conversation. So that conversation will be happening sometime in later October, November. And we'll keep the community updated about that. And then lastly, I know that there were a lot of bills that went out previously, one of them, and I can get back to you on the specific bill number, but it was a co-authorship between Senator Ashby's office and Assemblymember Isaac Bryan's office, where they gave health care to foster youth, and that they're supposed, like you were mentioning, the automatic program where they're supposed to be automatically enrolled into Medi-Cal if you are a foster youth. And so making sure that we support and continue to have programming like that, or legislation that supports programming like that. So those are the three ways that the state, at least from my knowledge, has been working to at least bring youth to the table, and then also addressing the issues that are currently happening.
I have two more questions and then I'm done. I hope everyone has some questions out in the audience ready. So as an educator, this is kind of a personal question. As an educator, having taught in LA, Atlanta, and DC, I keep seeing the same cycle of the school to prison pipeline, from womb to the jail cell type cycle. But what's even more troubling is my students are going to jail, and my students are being tried as adults, right? In addition to that, many of them are also foster youth. Many of them are emancipated youth. So, and that's from California all the way over to DC. So it's a national thing, it's a global thing actually. But the fact that we can have a youth emancipated, sleeping on the street, going to jail, being tried as an adult, their frontal lobe is not even fully developed yet. What do we say to that?
That's not right.
Can I go? So the member actually had a bill called AB 1231 that would create judges, give the opportunity for judges to send felony crimes that are low level to diversion programs rather than sending them to prison. Diversion programs are like reentry programs, mental health services, things of those sorts, sending them to resources rather than criminalizing them. Unfortunately, that bill did not move forward in the legislature, but we are bringing it back. And so we are still working on the bill. And the reason, and I do want to be transparent, and I know the member also is very transparent, the bill, we didn't want to take many amendments because we wanted the bill to go as it was. And so we want to make sure that we can bring more community partners to the table to be able to talk about the issues. We did rallies up in the Capitol, but that bill really, the felony crimes, we made sure that they were like not sexual offenders, no murders, things of those sorts, like not low-level felony crimes, to make sure that we at least get a start in the programs, and giving that an option for the judges. Because right now, the only option that they have to be able to go to diversion programs is through the DA's office. And so extending that to the judge's discretion was kind of the purpose of the bill. We would love to keep the community updated on that bill as we bring it back for the next session, but I did want to make sure that I noted that.
Our justice team is working with Department of Children and Family Services. For those of you who reside here, I'm sure you've seen it in the news. There's been a lot of movement at the juvenile hall systems. So some of what we were trying to do is really determine like the number of youth that are system impacted, both justice as well as being part of DCFS, and really writing some motions that could help take a deeper dive at what was the root cause of the reasoning for them there. How can we advocate different teams that are available to really look individually at the youth's case and kind of reimagine how justice is served, quote unquote, with those youth that are impacted. And so I know they've been working on it for quite some time. I'm called in often on those calls because the Los Angeles LACO, County Office of Education, works in tandem with teaching the students that are at these juvenile hall programs. And so it's a work in progress. Just the educators that teach in those school systems alone have been challenged quite often. And so, when they don't return or they decide they're not going to work there anymore, then how do we ensure that the youth that are there don't fall through the cracks with what they need, getting the services they need, or what education level are they at? So none of that has a break in service. And so those are things that have been prioritized by their department and I should say by their team and working together with the departments. And so you may be called often to come rally against or rally in support of these motions that are coming on board to really support justice-impacted youth.
With tight on time, real quick, I don't want to just leave off on that. So just some hopeful words as we transition over into lunch from either one of you or all of you.
Well, I think, we do a lot of work on the prevention side. So when you talk about root cause, why are children ending up in the system in the first place? Why aren't families getting the help they need up front? We were very involved with the mandated support work or as opposed to mandated reporting. I don't know how watered down that is going to get, but the intention is clear. Get the support to families when they need them to avoid all of this. Don't you think foster youth have already done their time? I mean, the idea of incarcerating them is just sick. So we do a lot of Head Start. We have community schools where we're resident in schools, and we're trying as much as possible to get to people the resources and the help and the hope that they need to get through adversity. I don't need to tell anybody in this room how horrible it is right now and what a difficult time it is. But prevention has got to be prioritized at the same time as all of these interventions once kids are in the system.
I talked about the resources that we offer earlier. I wanted to take time to thank our panelists, the folks who put this together. The fact that it was all youth-led, that is so dope. Y'all did this. I wanted to turn it back and say thank you for inviting us to have the conversation. It's an important conversation, and the fact that you're leading this as young people, we are all doing the work and we're the next ones. So I just want to say that I'm thankful that y'all brought me on, but I also am so proud of the work that you're doing.
Yes, what she said. So moving policy and practice into form really takes unrelentless determination to make sure we ensure equity, being very unapologetic about calling out the gaps in the system and making a commitment to move that work forward. So that's what I'm about. That's what I know we do at the Board of Supervisors in Holly J. Mitchell's office. So I'm excited about seeing this manifest and look forward to working with you all and making this needle move for us. So thank you for having me.
If we can give a round of applause for our panelists one more time.